Welcome to the eCommerce Growth Show, brought to you by Segmentify, the fast, lean learning machine, the fastest learning, most revenue-generating personalization platform for eCommerce.
Hello, welcome to episode 3 of the eCommerce Growth Show. In this series, we're focusing in on what you, as a retailer, need to know about to take your sales growth to the next level in 2020. There are 6 episodes in this series, and each of them focuses on a different area that's essential for e-commerce growth. Already live are our interviews with BigCommerce's head of Europe, Mark Adams, and Segmentify's own Murat Soysal. In each of these, we took a high-level look at what's been happening in the e-commerce tech space and, more importantly, how you can use that knowledge to create a competitive advantage for your business. After all, what creates growth more than a competitive advantage? Now, in this episode, we're shifting to the world of marketing, to the customer communications that bring the customer to the website to buy. Make sure you subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast app of choice so you don't miss the rest of the series, which is going to include payments, reviews, and the post-purchase experience. I'm Chloe Thomas, the host of the eCommerce MasterPlan podcast, the best-selling author of multiple books on e-commerce, and of course, co-host of this show. I'm joined on every episode of the series by Phill Kay from Segmentify. Hello, Phill.
Hello, Chloe.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good too. I am looking forward to getting into a topic which is something I've been involved with for over a decade now. So this is like my safe space. But it's an area you don't know so much about. So why did you want to include dotdigital in this series?
Absolutely. Well, this is a very, very important partner for Segmentify. Obviously my role has been in partnerships for a long while, and I've known dotdigital for a long time. And what's really happened, particularly with Segmentify and partnering with dotdigital, has been that we had a very exciting joint project for Select Fashion, which basically, it's fascinating. They were basically looking for the next level in terms of on-site personalization for their brand. And we had to do quite a rigorous proof of concept and A/B split test with their incumbent provider. And Segmentify not being what we'd call an ESP or an email services provider or engagement cloud or however you want to word that, we obviously need to partner with ESP platforms or engagement cloud platforms to deliver that side of things along with the rest of our proposition, which is around, personalized recommendations, push notifications, personalized search, and so on. So when we did that test, we decided, because we have a seamless integration with dotdigital, to partner with them for the end-to-end solution for Select Fashion over their incumbent provider. And the results were fantastic. We saw basically a 14% uplift in revenue contribution in addition to their current provider.
This is a company who are already doing some of the strategies, but by putting in place your tech combined with dotdigital, it lifted it by 14%.
Yeah,
wow.
Simply due to the power of our machine learning and the strength of the integration with dotdigital. So they are our tier 1 engagement cloud partner, and the combination of the integration and the tech quality, of both Segmentify and dotdigital just wiped the floor with the incumbent provider and gave, more importantly, the customer that extra uplift and gains from personalization and email marketing that they would, or whatever, the service that dotdigital provide effectively for that customer to the next level. So we were super excited about that. So I thought it's absolute no-brainer to welcome them onto this particular broadcast to tell the listeners all about that in more detail.
Okay, well, lovely listeners, what we've now got coming up is a deep dive into some of the more complex parts of shifting your business from the good old send out an email, hope some cash comes in, to a proper communication strategy. And we're going to be talking about preference centers, about legacy data, about new data, different channels, personalization. There's a whole load of good stuff coming your way that's going to really help you grow in 2020. It's time to welcome our guest. Gavin Laugenie is the Head of Strategy and Insight at dotdigital. He's spent his whole career helping businesses improve their online customer communications. And yes, that means email, SMS, social, mobile, and more. If you're not familiar with dotdigital, well, quite frankly, where have you been? Because they help over 4,000 brands in over 150 countries to be successful. And they've won so many awards, we could fill the whole episode by listing them all. But don't worry, we're not going to do that today. Hello, Gavin.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. I was taken back by that lovely intro from you.
Well, we try. We try, don't we, Phill?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes we succeed as well.
Yeah.
I was just thinking to myself, oh, this is a really good podcast. And I realised I'm on it. So
That's probably why.
Yeah.
How you doing, Gavin? You all right?
I'm very good. I'm very good, thanks. I'm trying not to say those words which are new year, new me, but I'm sort of, I'm trying to work on bettering myself. Let's say that.
Yeah, all the time.
That is the point of the whole podcast. This is what we're doing, is to try and give retailers that step to make their 2020 ever more brilliant.
Oh, there you go.
Absolutely. So, Gavin, somebody told me on the grapevine that you are pretty famous. Do you want to tell us more about that before I come down to your office for your autograph?
Famous? I wouldn't say famous, but I have been on TV. I don't think anyone that's been on Channel 5 can say that they're famous.
Wow.
I don't know. It's better than some of the channels these days. It's one of the top 5, isn't it?
Basically, do you remember Justin Lee Collins?
Mm-hmm.
There was a show called Good Times with Justin Lee Collins, and a friend of mine knew the production person and said, we want some idiots that will sing on TV. And the whole premise was there was a girl who was blindfolded and I had to sing to her. There were 3 guys that had to sing to her, and she had to choose one of the guys with the best voice, I guess.
Ooh. So a singer as well?
I'm not going to fall into that one.
Blind date meets The Voice is what we're talking here.
It was definitely like that, yeah. It was like the blind date meets The Voice, yeah. And I know what you're going to ask me. I didn't win. No. And your career didn't obviously go to the moon as a actor or singer? Well, no, it's gone from strength to strength because, dotdigital are going from strength to strength. And I think it coincided with me not actually making it on that show. And I've pushed everything into making my day job a lot better. So
was destiny, clearly.
Did you buy any of that?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
So convincing.
So convincing,
brilliant.
Yeah.
Great. Well, so what we're going to talk about is customer communications. I'm keen to hear, what do you think are the sort of most important things that we need to be focusing on in 2020 to maximize that area of the business?
Well, I sound like a broken record whenever I speak, really, because I tend to always bang on about data. And that is definitely one of the things I say people should be looking at, because without the right data, you can't really do anything. There's a whole bunch of sort of techniques and tips and tricks that I think that we speak about quite a lot over here at dotdigital, but without the right data, you're barking up the wrong tree effectively. You're not going to get the results you want. So, at risk of sounding like a broken record, I think getting your data in the right sort of state is definitely a key thing for going forward. But I think in 2020. Sort of life cycle marketing and definitely omnichannel marketing are a couple of things that people should be really looking at and focusing on.
Interesting to hear more about that, for sure.
So should we dive into getting the data in the right state first off? Because I guess, Gavin, there's kind of 2 sides to this, isn't there? We've got the side which is the data you've already got, and then there's the new data that's being fed into the system. So where should someone who's already up and running, where do they start? Do you start by what's coming in, or do you start with what's already there?
I would start with what's already there. because otherwise, you're going to be adding on, a mess on top of a mess that's already there. So, clean up what you've currently got, have an understanding of what you've got. There's so many, I won't name names, but there's so many clients I've spoken to that, don't really have an idea of what it is they have currently. So, kind of look at, have a really good look at what data you currently have, and have an understanding of what you're trying to do with it as well. Because in the same vein, you might have a ton of data, but it's not useful for anything. So it's kind of getting your head around that. What's currently sitting in your database, and hopefully that's not a spreadsheet that you've just got lying around somewhere. Hopefully you've got a tool to actually sort of manage your data properly. But have a look at what you have. Is it fit for purpose? Which means you're going to have to start looking at what you're trying to do with your data. You're going to want to run specific programs, automated programs, and that's the sort of thing you want to sort of look at first. So I'd say definitely take stock of what you currently have.
And I would guess a lot of people are going to find they've got different data in different places, which can be quite a challenge, can't it?
Yes. And again, this is one of the things, when you say something like that, it sort of rings true for a number of people I've spoken to. So, if you're listening to this and you think to yourself, that's me, and I'm never going to be able to get anywhere. So many people have the same issues. And you're able to get over those. You just kind of have to sit down and sort of figure out a plan. Really have an understanding of, as I keep saying, what it is you're trying to achieve. And then it makes it easier for you to sort of clear through and sit through and look at where your data sits, if it's in different pools, sitting in different tools, and then sort of one tool to kind of, sounds like Lord of the Rings, one tool to rule them all. You kind of want an all-encompassing tool to kind of manage all of your data in one place, or at least have different tools feeding into one place, because then you can have a really sort of holistic view of everything that you have. It's that 360-degree view of your data that everyone's trying to get. But yeah, having one tool to kind of funnel everything into, that's probably what you're looking for.
And you've mentioned a couple of times in there about knowing why you want the data. And I, like you, I speak to a lot of people who have no idea what data they've got, or, they want to do something and they discover they did have the data, but someone deleted it last week or something else. But it is the bit which often people kind of dive straight into collection or dive straight into cleaning before they've actually gone, why do we actually want data and what do we actually want to do with it? So do you find that's where you start with a lot of people, is actually, hold on, let's take a step back from the detail and go, why?
Yeah, 100%. And it's often not the clients that are asking themselves this. Is when I get into a session with a client, because I do these sort of deep dive sessions with our clients. If they kind of want it and need it, and I do ask those questions, and it's the awkward question, because it won't be the things that people want to ask, because they're going to have to deal with it. Someone's going to have to do that piece of work. But it is a case of, well, why are you doing this? You're collecting, for example, date of birth, but you never will send out a birthday campaign, and you guys aren't thinking of doing it. So why are you collecting that piece of information? You're wasting people's time, one, collecting it, and then you're wasting your time as well, because it's just sitting there. So it is, as you said, just think about why you're doing it.
I often find that the date of birth one in particular is one where someone's, they get a new tool and they're setting up a new email sign up or something. They're going, oh, we can ask for date of birth. Let's ask for date of birth. That would be cool, wouldn't it? It's like we're going to be kleptomaniac about data. Oh, we could ask for favourite toy as well. Let's do that. And it's like, really? You have to take a step back. But I think the other sort of thing you made the point of there was the bit where you say to people, why do you want this data? And people struggle to answer it. I think it's partly because it's a bit embarrassing. I think as marketers, we feel we always have to have the answer. And so sometimes being asked, why do we need this data and what do we want to do with it, can actually be quite a difficult question to ask internally. Sometimes you need a third party to come in and say, why?
Exactly that. And it's the amount of times I've had people in a room, and often, if it's a larger sort of marketing team, and the right hand doesn't speak to the left hand all the time, and you get people in a room and you ask that question why, and you see blank faces, and then some people like pointing things like, well, because you guys wanted it. No, we thought you wanted it. And oh, right, so we don't need that? No. Oh, okay. Well, then what are we trying to do? And it's it's those types of questions. And I think also when we're trying to communicate with our customers as individuals, and hopefully we want them to trust us as well. Collecting the right parts of information to execute exactly what it is they need is so vital. So, all of these sort of questions come into play. But it does start, as we said, with, what it is, what is it we're actually trying to do in the first place.
And we've strayed there into the part we haven't quite yet talked about, which is collecting the data in the first place. And that certainly when I, started off 15 years ago, we collected data and then we kind of assumed it was set in stone. The customer couldn't change anything. We'd never change anything. And it was, that was it forever. And it's not really that case anymore, is it?
Not at all, no. And the power should really sort of lie in your customers' hands, and it's their prerogative to kind of make changes. We've seen a massive rise here in dotdigital with clients wanting to not just have a preference center, but build one that's specific for them. It caters to their needs and their clients' needs, their customers' needs. And those are kind of makes me sound really sad, but those are all the rage. Having a sort of a custom preference center, because that's exactly what you want. You want to be able to speak to your clients, your customers, in the way they want to be spoken to. Frequency can be difficult to sort of manage, but definitely the types of comms that you want to speak to people about. Whether it's promotional bits and pieces, whether it's just news about yourselves, giving them the option to kind of chop and change and understand what that could look like as a complete comms plan for you guys, but also channels as well.
I was going to say, when it also comes to, we'll definitely pick up on that channels point in a second, but when it comes to custom preference centers, do people provide customers with different preference centers or capture methods at different points in the customer journey? Because it strikes me that the options you should give someone when they sign up are different to the options you give them when they're still an inquirer, which would be different to the options you give them if they've bought from you 5 times.
100%. You said you've been around in the industry like 15 years, and I've kind of seen those sort of changes. People bombarding customers right at the beginning. That's completely changed. You want to be able to have this progressive profiling, which I think really has been sort of a tactic that's been around for forever. And it is like that. Initially you just want to capture at least the email address. That's the key to everything. So at least capturing the email address, if you want to start moving down into different channels and maybe your mobile phone number as well. But once you have that email address, you can kick off into that initial welcome program, and then sort of nurture and build up and collect more and more information down the line, as and when you see fit. Because you're not going to want everything right up front, because people just going to think, well, I haven't got time to do that. If slowly you sort of build that up, it makes sense. It's like we have new relationships all the time, and you wouldn't think about telling people about everything that's happened in your lives, even though I've just told loads of people that I've been on TV before, but you wouldn't think about telling every sort of minute detail about yourself to someone straight away. You'd want to kind of build up to that, and it's exactly the same sort of thing we're trying to do here with this sort of digital thing that we all work in. Is just gradually build up that relationship, because it is a relationship that you're having with the customer. So that's what we're trying to do.
And we mentioned we were going to talk about channels there, and that's, if you start off with the email address, then you're going to want to start getting some other marketing channels. So, you've seen you get to kind of go behind the scenes and see what people are doing in many different e-commerce businesses of all sizes. And I know the whole multi-channel, omni-channel thing is something people are struggling with. So are you seeing of those who you're seeing be successful, because we don't expect you to name any names here, but what are they doing that's creating big benefits without massive upheaval?
I think they're opening themselves up to the different channels that there are available. That's one thing. The second thing is asking your database. Isn't that a novel thing? Is asking the people that you're selling to, interacting with, whether or not they want to connect with you on other channels. And it's a generational thing as well. I'm seeing a number of people like to communicate maybe on chat on your website, or a lot of people might want a WhatsApp message or an SMS message. You've got other people as well who are quite happy to stick with the staple, which is email. But unless you're asking that question, which kind of goes back to what we were saying about preference centers, but unless you're asking those questions, you won't know whether or not different channels, multiple channels, omni-channel is going to work for you. So I would definitely say open yourselves up to all of those channels, and then give your customer base a chance to tell you exactly whether or not they want to converse with you on those channels. Because the worst thing in the world is to start getting SMSs from someone and you just think to yourself, no, I didn't really request that, or there's far too many. Switch off, and then you kind of lose them. So you really need to ask that question.
And from the business perspective as well, go to all the effort of building a new channel to then find its tumbleweed because the customer didn't actually want it after all.
But then figuring out what the actual use of it is, because SMS is probably not going to be that sort of mass promotional type channel. It's probably more for notifications, and definitely WhatsApp will be that as well. So notifications, letting people know that you've made that purchase and this is your receipt, if you like. It works great in the world of travel, to get your boarding passes and bits and pieces on SMS, so then you can save to your wallet. Those types of things, and it's sort of opening up the horizon to building a sort of it's almost like a narrative you have. You start off talking on email, you get them excited, get them sort of looped in, get them to purchase after receiving an email, but then notifications happen on SMS and WhatsApp, and if you start to lose them, then maybe you can tie into social, and if you really wanted to, you've got snail mail and post to kind of get people back into the fold, or maybe if they're a really sort of high ticket, high value customer, that's when snail mail or post can come quite nicely. So it's sort of building up that picture, that sort of, I guess if you want to say life cycle marketing, building up that sort of journey that people are taking with you and understanding where those different channels sort of fit into.
Yeah, I find it's interesting actually. You mentioned it around really, it's a relationship. And I haven't really, obviously from not directly in your space, suddenly realizing that's what you're actually doing. You're cultivating a relationship through it, aren't you? Or at least you're assisting with it or adding a layer. Of course, yeah, penny drops.
It's one of those things. You do forget really that when you send out a mass message to all of your people in your database, you forget that there is someone on the other side of that computer screen. It's an actual person, and I'm looking more and more into sort of not just sustainability, but sort of ethics when it comes to what we do in the business world. And I found a stat the other day. It was saying, I think something like 84% of consumers say that they would consider working with a company or buying from a company based on their ethics and their values. And treating someone as an individual comes back into all of that. So I think it's something that companies are really going to have to start understanding. And you're seeing it more and more with sort of e-commerce businesses. You do make a decision now based on how people make their produce, if they're giving back and that type of thing as well. So it's definitely something to consider. Is the person buying your wares that they're actually an individual?
Well, yeah, I like the fact you bring up the ethics, because I think people often think ethics is about where the product is sourced or about the message they give out. And they sometimes don't quite realize, actually, no, it's about the number of messages you send and the content of those messages as well. It's if you're going to go down that sustainability ethical positioning, then you have to consider it across the entire business, not just the packaging your product leaves the warehouse in.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
And Gavin, given this is the Segmentify podcast, we have to talk a little bit about, and because we're talking about customer comms, we can't not talk personalization. So we don't have time to cover the whole of personalization today, but one question I think kind of fits in with what we've been talking about is, do you find brands being successful basing the personalization they're doing on what the customer does or what the customer inputs in preference centers? So the old behavior versus what they say they'll do.
You can't have them mutually exclusive. You definitely can't have one without the other. You have to make a sort of fuse the two together. The implicit and explicit data need to work together to get what I like to call, what we've sort of referred to as digital body language, and that's do you like that?
I like implicit and explicit. I was getting quite excited about, and then digital body language. I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
But it's that sort of thing, because when someone walks into a store, like if you had a brick and mortar store, and I go back to my old days, I used to work at the Gap. Other clothing stores are available. I used to have, someone would walk in and you'd see them make a beeline for either the jeans or something like that, and that would show you exactly what they're looking for. But then you go and speak to them and they say, well, actually, I've come in looking for jumpers today. And, you can see how straight away you can be led down one route, but actually they're looking for something else as well. So, they fill out their preferences in the preference center, and you could stick to that, and that could be the only thing you do. But if you ignore the other sort of information you have from them, like, their movement around the website, how long they've lingered on a page for, if they've left something in their basket and they haven't come back for it, all those types of things, you've got to fuse that all together, because just having them tell you something alone is not enough. The age-old example that I've always sort of had is, you go to the doctors and the doctor will ask you how many units of alcohol you've consumed, over a regular week. And, because it's a doctor, you'll probably lie.
Yeah.
One unit.
Tell me about it.
But then if the doctor goes through your rubbish, your bins, and sees all the bottles of wine, that's another thing. So, customers telling you one thing, you can't just take that. You need to look at their digital body language to make a proper decision on what it is they want. So using that data to kind of segment and personalize based on that. And again, you can always ask them, how are we sort of wide of the mark here? But it looks to us as though you'd be interested in X, Y, and Z.
Very cool. I'm still loving digital body language. I'm going to be using that this year. Okay, so Gavin, we've been talking all about the marvelous world of preference centers and omnichannel and all the rest of it, but which of course is what you do day in, day out at dotdigital. So do you want to tell us a little bit about dotdigital and how the listeners can get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, sure. Well, we are obviously a massive sort of platform, and Engagement Cloud is the platform that you've been using if you did kind of look at us. But we help all our clients sort of connect and empower themselves with sort of a range of tools. And as I was saying, sort of omni-channel marketing is the key thing for us. So not just looking at email, which is our bread and butter, but giving you a sort of a range of tools to communicate with your clients is what we're sort of offering. And if you do want to have a look at the platform, or at least get in touch with us and have someone speak to you about how we can help to broaden your horizons in terms of communications and really connecting with your customers, you can go to our website, which is there's actually a particular link for a quick demo, so you can see a video, and then if you want to see more of that, then you can dive a little bit deeper into that. But if you go to https://dotdigital.com/demo. It's quite sad actually, because you go to that page, you're going to see my face. It sounds like I'm promoting myself, but you go there and fill out the details, and you can get a quick demo of the platform, just to see sort of an overview of what's available. And if you want to see more, then you can have someone sort of design a demo for you. But as I said, we're all about sort of heightening communications with our clients, and working really well with our partners as well. So Segmentify, really helping you get the best out of digital marketing. It's not really about just using our platform. It's sort of taking a step back and understanding strategy, and that's the sort of thing I'm looking to as well. To really work out what it is you should be doing for your clients.
Nice one, Gavin. I've just got kind of one little question, which I'm quite keen, because again, I'm not directly in your world, because we're both in e-commerce. But what would you say, almost like as in a nutshell, to somebody like me who doesn't fully know ins and outs of the sector that you're in? How would you say to them, this is why we're kind of different? This is why we have a unique proposition that is really powerful, and that you need to speak to us because of how we can help you. How would you sort of package that up in a couple of sentences?
I think I'm very careful in not saying that we're a one-stop shop, because that's definitely not the case. Although we offer you a number of different channels to communicate with your customers on, be it email, SMS, social, and even we've got like a raw mail sort of plug-in tool that you can use as well. So a number of different channels. But on top of that, we're really sort of involved in how we can help you better yourselves with using the platform. So it's the account management team and people like myself who really take an interest in your world, what it is you're trying to achieve, and how we both can get there. I think that's the key to that. And I've been here 10 years, and in that whole time I've been here, it's always been sort of, we've got this really sort of easy platform to use. Put that to one side. It's how we can help you get the best out of that platform. And I think that's always been the case with us, really.
Awesome answer. Okay, cool. Thanks, Gavin, so much for being on the show and for giving us so much great insight. I know we'll have helped the listeners yet again to improve their business in 2020. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Gavin.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, see you soon.
Really enjoyed it. Take care.
See you. Bye-bye.
So, Phill, we got deep into the world of data and preference centers and communications and email marketing there. Left me with lots of ideas for very complicated stuff. How about you? What did you take from that one?
I'll tell you what. I think I mentioned it in the chat with Gavin. The penny dropped for me when I suddenly realised that this is all about complementing a relationship. As I suddenly realised, when I go about talking to our customers, or we're talking to the marketplace, what are we actually trying to do? What are we actually even trying to do with our platform segment? The personalization. We are trying to build a relationship with every single person that interacts with the website that we're deployed on. And similarly with dotdigital, it's exactly the same. What are you doing to cultivate relationship pre, post sale, and so on, with the customer? So I think that was a really good thing for me to understand how to bring it together, in the sense of how it relates really to the relationship building element with your customers.
Hopefully we've given a few of the listeners that penny drop as well, because I think there's a big shift in the industry, in the the e-commerce marketing industry, from just send a big email out, see some money come in, send a big message out, see some money come in, to actually how do we embrace that with the customer journey? It's not an easy change to make. It requires quite a lot of work, quite a lot of thinking, quite a lot of strategy, and a big old mindset shift.
Like in the old days of email, certainly from my perspective, and even in a sales operation or whatever, it's all about a volume game. But actually, it's not about that anymore. It's like, how can we get granular with each and every interaction? And that's why the combination of Segmentify and dotdigital, for example, is so powerful. Because when they're talking about that relationship, if you have that granular control over what each and every customer is doing, and you can tailor your message accordingly, then of course your value back and relevancy to the customer just goes up and up and up.
Thank you, Phill. Now, if you want to get granular and make that shift away from the volume game to something much more lucrative, then you should probably head to segmentify.com/podcast, where you can get your hands on all the links and resources mentioned in this episode and a full transcript. That's a written version of this whole show. Via that link, you'll also find details of the whole series. Don't forget to subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and so forth, because we wouldn't want you to miss a single episode, especially not the next one. In our next episode, Phill and I are swatting up on the latest payments, mobile and international expansion strategies with Brian Mapley of Adyen. Yes, we've managed to fit what you need to know to grow about all three of those crucial subjects into just one episode. Do not miss it.
Put us to the test and let us prove we can drive more revenue for you. Sign up for a completely free proof of concept or split test against your current provider, set up and optimized by our team within a few days at segmentify.com/demo.